So where do you think it's gonna be in like a year or two? Like, where do you imagine the mind's ecosystem?
I'm hoping, and I kind of casually mention this every now and then, but I think so. Me and Frosted Rose, who we write a lot of poetry together, and Nikki actually had a dream about this, and I actually had a dream about this this morning. But what I want to do is hopefully get back the Imaginarium. And the Imaginarium always was supposed to be kind of like this creative workspace. One of my friends wanted to interview me on a podcast, and I thought it was weird. But then, so, he said, "Oh, give me a little bio." And I'm like, "Oh my God, what the fuck am I going to say in my bio?" And I said, "Okay, if I was writing a business card for SatoriD, what would it be?" It's like, SatoriD is a digital shaman, and his business is manifesting dreams. And so I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And so I gave that to him. And then I just started thinking about that. I was like, okay, we're in the business of manifesting dreams. So let's dream up a dream and make it happen. And then how do we go about doing that? The thing is, what I think we should move towards, and which I'm glad Bill said this in his Joe Rogan thing, is to bring this energy out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the gatherings is actually the perfect little step towards this, as we interact directly with each other, and we keep on doing this, in which the early version of the gatherings, which I was doing with duct tape and gum, was the Imaginarium.
Yeah.
And we always had this idea of taking the show like on the road. And this summer, just like taking a dry run. I have a sister that lives in Boston area. She always would say, "Oh, I want to travel the country," but she's always a principal, and then like work always came first. So now she's like, "Oh, okay, now that I have time, I'm gonna have actual summer off. Like, I want to do something." And she's like, "You want to join me?" And I'm like, "Hey, yeah, you're gonna share the cost, right?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll travel the country and we'll go visit family." But I want to use that as like a prototype to map out. Okay, start thinking about like, what is the bare minimum of what it's gonna cost to do this?
Mm-hmm.
In more practical terms. Okay, what is the time frame that I have to like map out? Is a week too fast? Is 3 weeks too long? You know what I mean? And think about it in those practical ways, because I've always wanted, I've been pushing for all sorts of stuff. Like, there's this group called Open Collective.
So Open Collective started about a year and a couple of months ago, and the goal was to enable what we call the intergeneration organizations. So organizations that are groups of people that have a shared purpose or a shared mission, but they're not either territorially based, so open source projects, for example, or large social and political movements that are global, or they can't really fit into the assumptions that governments have for organizations. So they can't really form a 501c3, or they can't have an LLC because it's not in their nature. They don't want to have a conversation about equity. They don't care who the president is, or they have their side projects, right? So there's a lot of organizations that we realized, and that we had ourselves, that we couldn't fund, because if we didn't have a legal entity, we couldn't have a bank account. So we couldn't have collective funding. Yes, someone could give me money as an individual, but it didn't belong to me. It belonged to the community. How we fund, structure, and power these kinds of organizations is like what we set out to do.
And basically, it's an open ledger for people to use to, like, if you're donating to this organization, they're mostly nonprofits, and it shows like so you're part of this group, and say you buy something for the organization, food for the meeting, and you get reimbursed. All you do is like you take a picture of your receipt. There's like, depending on your structure, a board that says approves that you get reimbursed for it. It's there for everybody to see. You get the funds to you, and it's like this transparent way for groups to be like, this is where the money's going, but you have to write up, you know, your budget, your proposal. And I did a mock proposal for our podcast, and it never worked, but it was just that exercise of being like, okay, how much do you think this thing's gonna cost? Price things out, think things like in this way, and show it to people. And so you're not just saying, oh, I want money to do this road trip. No, this is what I want to do. This is how much I think it's gonna cost. Here's my loose plan for it, but I want to make it transparent. So if you're giving money, and you don't even like, I don't even want to think about it like money. Like if you have a couch for me to sleep on, like that's going to the cause of this project. If you have a camera, gas money, you know, like it doesn't have, it could, I'm thinking about like resources and how much that could be cut down as like we crowdsource this venture and even crowdsource talent. And
this thing's called Open Collective?
Yeah, Open Collective.
Is it .com? Can I reach it? Well, how do I get to it?
I think it's .com. It might, cool. Let me look it up.
So the way Open Collective works, it's a platform where we can create collectives, or collectives create themselves actually. And then underneath that platform is a network of host organizations that act as their fiscal sponsors.
From different countries.
From different countries in different verticals. And we're actually now playing with the idea of having wallets, like a Bitcoin wallet or an Ether wallet being a host as well. The concept is that underneath there's this network of host organizations. So now you can, boom, create your collective, start receiving funding. All the transactions are transparent, so you share your ledger. What we also strive to do is to sort of remove the complexities of dealing with money and talking about money by making all the transactions transparent by design. Like the only way of removing money from your collective is submitting an expense for being reimbursed or an invoice that the core team has to approve, and then the host pays. All of that is transparent, so you can see who make the donation, what are you using that money for. Many collectives are also starting to show their expenses. They don't even have money, they don't have donations, but they're like, we just want to show what it takes to do what we do. And we shouldn't run with the cost without at least other people being aware that what we do implies all of this effort.
Now you start to document.
Exactly.
We do have expenses. We're not just pocketing this.
Exactly.
Right.
Those, and in some way, what we think is going to happen is like what happened with like sharing code at the beginning. At the beginning was just putting your code out there, right? But that enabled a new kind of collaboration that didn't exist until you could actually show your code. So by showing your ledger, by making your costs transparent, what we hope to see and what we think we'll see is new types of collaboration between collectives that didn't exist before because no one knew.
Because it's almost like a financial GitHub.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good, yeah.
Where do you live in California?
I live in Los Angeles.
Wow, right in the heart of the beast.
Yeah, I'm in the belly of the beast.
How long have you lived in LA?
All my life. Born and raised in LA.
Wow, crazy. What area of LA?
It's the city I live in is called Monterey Park, but do you know that area?
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like 10 minutes away from downtown.
Yeah, cool. And what do you do for like your paychecks and whatnot?
I'm a cook.
Nice.
So like I've been
You can stay on my couch anytime if you cook for me.
Yeah, and see, I've done a lot of different types of cooking. My go-to stuff is some kind of Asian or Mexican. I'm Hispanic, so it's either my grandma's cooking or the cooking I grew up with, because Monterey Park's a big Asian community. And like one of the first things I ever learned was to do like fried rice. I just been enamored with their flavor profiles and stuff like that. So I mean, I have like go-to dishes that I do that are pretty good.
Nice.